So Tim. Nick's new toy is awesome. I'm just riding around his. It has like no top end. Ball.
All right, we are live once again, and floor is yours, Bob.
Thank you. Welcome to the April 7th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I think we should start by Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we get a motion for last month's minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from our March 3rd, 2021 meeting as presented.
You didn't do roll call. Oh, I didn't do roll call. My bad. Thank you, John. I want to start out with roll call. I should have done that first. Robert Peckham, present. Beth Mossworth.
Here.
John Miglerini. Here. Christian Chamberlain.
Here.
Heather Robinson.
Here.
Jesse Redlow.
Here.
Timothy Harrington.
Present.
We are all present, which is great. Now can I do it, John?
Do you need a second for the minutes?
For the minutes? Now, we'll do the minutes now. I'm sorry.
So would you like me to entertain my motion?
Let's entertain your motion.
So I move, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the March 3rd, 2021 meeting as presented.
Second. Oh, go ahead, whoever.
I don't care. If I don't-
Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved from last
Who's
month.
laughing?
I know.
Sorry, Heather. So I would like to start with application number 2021-003, which is a holdover from last month at 65 Goodway Drive South, represented by Eco 65 Goodway Drive. Is our applicant on the line?
I do have, I have Van and Jeremy.
Hello, can you hear me?
There's Jeremy.
Can hear you. Hello.
Good
How are
evening.
you today, Jeremy.
Good, how are you guys?
Great, thanks. Tim, you-
So I think where we left off last meeting, we just went over the project, the request for a reduction of parking spaces for the proposed building addition from 59 down to 46. Went into the square footage of the building addition. Talked about the applicant's need for additional space. It's mainly for storage of materials and equipment. There's 20 existing employees currently, and we're going to be increasing the total parking spaces up to 46. So, a little over double the current demand for the facility as it stands right now.
Also, from my notes, is the sponsor of this request this is the third and final component of the expansion. Snow removal is not a concern because there are designated spaces to handle that. In fact, this will remove some 4 to 5 trucks from the current parking spaces into the new facility, will actually reduce the need for or demand on the current parking spots.
Thank you.
Yes, that is correct.
And has there been any change since the last meeting till today?
No, there is not.
And I should have asked you something earlier, and I'm sorry. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry. My name is Jeremy Kimball. I'm with Vanguard Engineering, and our address is 133 South Fitzhugh Street, Rochester, New York, 14608.
Thank you for that.
So I have no further questions.
Any other questions from the board? Any other questions from any members of the audience in person? Heather, anyone else that you can notify online?
I don't see anybody online. Nope.
Thank you. With that, we can get a motion, Tim?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number 2021-003 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, one, duly advertised and held a public hearing, two, considered all relevant information, three, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as there is sufficient parking and snow removal options for the size of the building. Two, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternatives, given the insufficient lot space for more parking spaces. Three, the variance request is not substantial, given the lot size. Four, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. This change will actually remove trucks from the outside to the new building on the inside. And in fact, to add spaces would create an undesirable change to the impermeable surface ratio. Five, the difficulty relating to the variance was self-created because of the building expansion, but the new space is primarily for storage and will not increase employee traffic or guests and delivery traffic. And be it further resolved that based upon these above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Jeremy.
Take care.
Next, we are going to hear applications 2021-36 and 2021-005 by Julie Quinn.
I'm looking for her online. I think she is a phone in. I'm going to try allowing this number to talk. I hope it's her.
Okay.
Just 1 second, guys.
Hello.
Julie, can you hear us? Is that you?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there you go.
Hello, Julie. Could you please state your name and address for the record, Julie?
Yep, Julie Quinn, 175 Red Lion Road, Henrietta.
Thank you. You want to start?
Yes, basically, so you have two applications. I have no problem with the first one. It's only 3 additional square feet. That's, very close to what is allowed anyway. So that's not the issue. The second application, I know you already have, it's an existing structure that was gifted to you and it's already in place. And I know, I guess the most levelest portion of your, so there's no way, I didn't walk the back of your property and see it actually, so I couldn't tell if there was any place, there's nowhere else that would possibly be able to be in the back there to be in line with.
I sent pictures today.
Yes.
So she said she could share them. The back of my yard is very narrow from the house to the adjacent property. So the only, level logical spot was to the left of my house. And it is a corner. It's a big corner. I don't think it's, obstructing anyone's view of anything. It lines up fine with the house. That's why I sent the pictures. I don't know what more to say about it.
One of the pictures is up now. We did get the pictures and we've seen those. So thank you for sending those.
Okay.
You're
welcome.
I see that, you have a corner lot. It's also with the, looks like there's a slope in the back too, where it's not going to be level. So it'd be hard for the structure to be level without either digging into the ground or propping it up in the front or something like that.
Plus it gets very moist there in the spring, like lots of water kind of settles at the bottom of that hill in the back of our yard.
Yes, exactly. So a bit of a drainage issue as well. And I see it, it's not really, the structure, it's a new structure. It's, doesn't stand out that much. It's not in line of sight for the road. So I don't really personally have an issue with it myself. It's not,
okay.
But it's something that I just didn't know if there was any other alternatives that you could think of, but if that's where it is the best place for it, then I'm okay with it where it is.
Julie, do you have any electricity?
No,
No? Okay.
no.
Okay.
Just has 2 windows on each side and just stores our lawnmower and bikes, camping equipment.
Okay.
Another, just an observation, Julie. I looked initially at the Google Maps, and I have to say that what you've done to the property is actually quite nice, removing all the shrubbery and painting the house and everything. So just a little compliment. I think you did a very nice job there.
Thank you. Yes, there's a lot of trees. That was lots of needles everywhere on the driveway, which was very slippery. So we ended up getting rid of a lot of those pine trees.
Nice addition to the neighborhood, or subtraction, whatever the right answer is. Any other questions from members of the board?
No.
No?
No.
Heather, are there any questions that you can see from members of the virtual audience?
Yes, I do have one raised hand. Let me allow them to talk. Fikro, can you hear me? Fikro? They raised their hand, but they're not speaking, so I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll hold a
I
second.
know a few of my neighbors did ask me, but it wasn't his. It was Bill Flood. He had asked me, if I was getting an additional shed or if it was the existing, and I explained to him, and he said he was fine with it. So I'm not aware of any of my neighbors that had a problem with it. So.
Okay, so your neighbors haven't seen anything about, there are no negative comments about the shed. Okay.
No. Actually, the house is vacant behind the people own it, but they're not there. They relocated to help a family member, so they've been not there for quite some time.
Okay.
So.
All right. Are there any questions from the 2 members of the audience? Nope. Okay. With that, I would like to have a motion for this.
All right. With regard to applications numbers ZBA 2020-136 and ZBA 2021-005 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variances will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. There are other sheds of similar size in the neighborhood. The variances cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The shed is already in the most feasible location on the property. The variances requested not substantial. The size of the shed is only 3 square feet more than what is allowed by code. 4, the variances will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The shed is in good condition and will not have any impact to conditions on the property. And the difficulty relating to the variances was self-created. The applicant was gifted the shed and was placed in the most level portion of the property. And be it further resolved that based upon above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the variances as presented.
Second.
That's seconded by Jesse. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Heather is opposed. With that, this motion carries. The zoning variances are both approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm sorry, Heather, should I have separated those out? Would that have mattered to you?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next we,
I'm against application 21005.
okay. You heard that, Heather? Okay. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear 2021-006. Joseph Johnson and Beth, you will handle this?
I'm right here.
You're right here?
I'm here.
Oh,
Come on
please,
up and-
we're so unused to people being here in person.
I've never been here before, so I thought I'd come in.
Well, welcome. Please step up to the podium.
Okay.
Say your name and your address for the record,
Yep.
please.
It's Joseph Johnson. I live at 2 Pacer Drive, Henrietta.
Thank you for coming.
Mr. Johnson, in your application on your instrument survey, there was a fence that had been there and it was removed.
Correct. I removed it. It was falling apart and dilapidated. So I pulled it out and now I'm trying to put one back. I have a dog and a kid. So I was like, and we're right on the corner of Pinnacle and Pacer. And there's a lot of cars. So
So this is to gain some more of secured space in your yard.
yes,
What type of fencing are you going to put in?
4-foot chain link.
Chain link?
Yep.
Okay. So you think that 4 foot is going to be enough for you? The 4 foot high?
Yeah, I'm trying not to, I'm right on the property line with my neighbors in the back and I don't want to affect them too bad either. So I'm trying not to like, on that corner, I'd love to put a 10-foot wall because of the noise, but other than that, it would help with the dog and the kid, just to keep them safe.
And what made you come out as far as you did? Was it just to keep it before the tree line?
Yeah, so the house is on a really weird angle on the property, and I don't have a whole lot of room behind the house, so I'm trying to gain that space on that side yard. I like the spot by the trees and stuff. There's like 4 pine trees, I think, that are over there. And it's just, I figured I could capture that side yard and be able to play with my son and our little, the dog, so.
Great. And that makes sense. It is an odd angle there. It does make it hard to make
Yes.
that real lined up and everything.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions on the board? Heather, are there any questions from the virtual audience?
Nothing here.
Any questions from the local audience? You're good? Okay. Thank you. With that, Beth, do you need a moment? Good.
Oh, wait, just 1 second. Oh, wait, never mind. They left.
Okay.
Oh,
Forget that. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, in regards to application ZBA 2021-006 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative based on the placement of the home on the lot. This was the best place to gain as much as possible of fenced yard. The variance is not substantial, as requesting to add 1 foot to the fence height in the front yard. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, and be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve variance as presented. I will second.
Seconded by Heather. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Your application is approved. Thank you, Beth.
Hey, Bob, the gentleman popped back in. Do you mind taking his comment?
Which application is that?
I'm not sure. He's got his hand raised. His name is Tom. Do you want me to allow him to speak?
Of course.
Tom, can you hear us? I'm trying to unmute you, but it's not. There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
I've been Joe's neighbor for well over a year, and I definitely agree that he needs a fence on that property. And I think the 4 foot over the 3 foot would be a major advantage. He's got a young kid, and when I watch him chase the kid around the house, around the yard, it'd be nice just to have a fence there. And if the only difference is between 3 feet and 4 feet, I have absolutely no objection to that. I'm probably the only one in the entire neighborhood would see that fence all the time, and it doesn't, I do not object to it whatsoever.
Well,
1281 Pinnacle Road, Henrietta, just around the corner.
thank you for your input, Tom. We appreciate it. And we have just approved it, so your neighbor will have a 4-foot fence soon enough. Thank you for the feedback. That was easy.
And then did everybody approve that? I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
The answer is yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one we have is 2021-007 by applicant Kevin Donk.
He is online.
Yes, I'm here.
There you go.
Would you please state your name and address for the record?
07 Glenacre Drive, Pittsburgh, New York.
Thank you. Heather, this one's yours to start.
Kevin, can you give us some information regarding the purpose of the fence?
We were just trying to put up a fence to keep, same as the last guy, our kids and dog kind of out of the road.
Okay. What type of fence are you guys looking to put up? Is it a chain link, wooden?
We've gone back and forth between wooden and vinyl.
Kevin, did you stop and say you've gone back and forth between wood and vinyl?
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's a little bit hard to hear you. There's some background noise, so that's why.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got stuck at work.
Understood. Heather, are there any more questions that you have?
No, that's it.
Okay. Kevin, I have a question. I would like to know how far off of the sidewalk this this fence would be.
I believe it's supposed to be 25 foot off the center of the road. So I didn't measure it exactly as far as in relation to the sidewalk, but it's probably going to be, you know, at least a few feet back onto the property.
Mr. Donk, why do you feel that you need a 6-foot fence as opposed to maybe a 4-foot fence if it's for security of a child and a dog?
Actually, that was partially what we were going back and forth on. We were considering doing a 4-foot, mainly because we had thoughts of trying to keep a little bit of the noise from Calkins Road kind of at bay. But as we've kind of gone back and forth, because our neighbors to the north, their property is actually several feet higher. So actually it would only look like about a 4-foot fence to them. Some of it was privacy in terms of, I know my wife has been, you know, sitting outside or whatever with the kids, and we've actually had people kind of walk into our yard that we don't know and start talking to her. So she wanted a little bit more privacy. But aside from that, it was really just to keep the kids and the dog safe, because it's such a clear shot right into the road and people come right in off of Calkins.
So from a safety standpoint, will a 6-foot chain link accomplish what you're trying to do rather than a 6-foot wood or vinyl?
I mean, it would accomplish the security, but obviously the aesthetics are not what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
And to follow up on Mr. Redlow's question, I would be curious, would you accept a 4-foot fence versus a 6?
I think we actually, one of the questions I was going to ask at the end of it was if we happen to decide upon it, can we get the 6-foot and then only put up a 4-foot, or do we have to like reapply the whole thing?
You can, if you ask for a 6 and we approve a 6, you can put up a 4. You'll have freedom to go up to 6.
Okay. All right. Honestly, I think we're probably leaning towards a 4 because we talked to a few of the neighbors and such. Because it's not to cut off our neighbors, because we actually, you know, we get along pretty well with our neighbors. It was just, you know, like I said, to kind of keep some noise out, get a little bit of privacy from, you know, people that we don't know on the sidewalk. just stuff like that. So we're at the moment leaning towards a 4.
Well, from my eyes, and there's a vote that goes on here, I'm leaning more towards a 4 and less towards a 6, especially with the privacy style fence.
Okay.
So if you are accepting of that, that may change the vote for a couple of members and may mean the difference between getting it or not getting it, depending on the vote. So if you're
Okay.
accepting of a 4-foot fence, that may change the ruling here, and it's something we'll talk about once you give us some input to that question.
And then if I can ask this, considering the character of the neighborhood component of it, could you achieve your privacy and containment if the fence didn't get as close as it is to the sidewalk in the street? Maybe if it were in line to the end of the house instead.
Yeah, that was part of the problem with the variance, because our main part of the yard, I think you guys have a site map, right?
Oh, yeah.
The main part of the yard that's occupied is that north side, and it has a section that goes up to the sidewalk. So that was the main reason we were trying to preserve as much of it as we could.
Okay. So, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Dunn? Okay, Heather, are there any questions from anybody in the virtual audience?
I do. Ms. Harper asked, are there any requirements regarding upkeep since this fence will be close to the sidewalk?
I don't know how to answer that.
Kev, I can't hear you through the microphone.
It's off.
Because it's off. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Evan Wilson, Director of Building and Fire Prevention. Town code does require that fences be maintained. If they go dilapidated or unmaintained, we will, code enforcement, we could definitely send out violation notices to them. So yes.
Are there any other questions after that, Heather?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, and I assume in the audience, there's no question in the physical audience? Okay. So I'd like to have a quick discussion on this. Should we do it now or should we do it at the end? At the end.
Yeah, can we table this, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so Mr. Dunk, with regards to your time, you won't love me saying this, but we're gonna table this for a minute, which means we're gonna discuss it at the end of the meeting to make a decision at that point. So
Okay.
we're gonna table application 2021-007 till the end of the meeting.
Okay, I'll stay online, and like I said, I'm stuck at work, so I'll join in when I hear my name.
Perfect. We'll reach out to you in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me put that to the side. Okay, next one we have is 2021-008, Teresa and Jason Bayer, 63 Elmcrest Rise. Are you on the line with us?
Yes, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Thank you. Could you guys please state your names for the record and your address as well?
Teresa and Jason Bear at 63 Elmcrest Rise.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jesse?
Mr. and Mrs. Baer, nice to see you again. Well, I just have one brief question with regards to the characteristic of the neighborhood. I know you're asking for a 6-foot privacy fence for your pool. Can you explain, do you have any neighbors who have privacy fences as well?
We do. Our neighbor next door has a 6-foot privacy fence, and then
There's on the other side of them, they have a privacy fence as well. There's a number there's quite a few in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, folks. Those are all of my questions.
For this privacy fence, are you going to be doing chain link, wood, vinyl?
we are deciding between wood and vinyl.
You've chosen also to place this fence from the center line approximately back 35 feet.
Yes.
And that gives ample enough viewing space as you're driving down the road to the intersection of Elmcrest and East Path?
I believe it does. We have a large front yard. So I believe there's plenty of room to see there.
And this fence that you're requesting is adequate for the other needs that you're or for the needs that you have?
Yes.
Are there any other questions from the board? No? Are there any questions, Heather, from any other members of the audience?
I have none.
All right, with that, we can motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number 2021-008 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as multiple neighbors have 6-foot tall privacy fences. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as other fence types and heights will not provide the level of privacy sought by the applicant. The variance requested is substantial, but the applicants have provided adequate justification for the variance. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, as green space is not being disturbed. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, but the variance is still adequately justified. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
Second. Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Right. All right. Next one is 2021-010 by Yorick Properties. Oh, I skipped that one. Oh, I skipped 2021-009. I apologize. I jumped ahead. We just did 009, right?
No, we just did 008.
Oh, thank you. 2021-009, Stephen Carroll Burley, 165 St. Patrick Drive. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Great. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I will. I'm Carol Burley and I live at 165 St. Patrick Drive.
Thank you.
Carol, this is Terrence, and we spoke earlier, and I shared our discussion with the board. For the benefit of discussion, can you share 2 things? First, why a fence, and second, why a 6-foot fence?
Sure. As we had discussed, we have been here a number of years, and our long-term goal kind of wasn't to stay in New York State after the kids got out of high school. But at this point, it's looking like we may be here a little more long-term than we wanted. So we're getting close to retirement age. So we're trying to create our privacy haven for us to be able to enjoy our backyard. Being on a corner lot, we literally are in a fishbowl. It's all open property in the back, down all the backyards for the next like 3 or 4 houses. And then because of us being a corner lot, and there's only the shrubs on the one side by Glen Iris, anyone even walking down the street on Glen Iris coming towards St. Patrick, they can see everything in the backyard walking up that way. Same with coming from St. Patrick down around the corner. It's all pretty much open. And we do have dogs, so it would be nice to be able to be in our own backyard, let the dogs run around. We try not to spend a lot of time outside, especially with the dogs, because we do have neighbors that don't really, the dogs get outside, they'll bark at people. And even though they're on a leash, people don't want to be barked at, and I stay outside with the dogs with them. They're not outside alone ever. So the kids are getting older. We thought it's time to enclose it, and 6-foot fence is really the only way we're going to have privacy. 4-foot fence isn't really going to give us any privacy either. And with dogs, I'm afraid, what if they jumped a fence or another dog jumped a fence and came in or something? So those are the 2 main reasons why. There's, lots of reasons to have a fence, but we've lived in a fishbowl for a long time, so we'd like some privacy for us.
And what style of fence are you considering?
We would like to have the dog ear wood fence, which is one that many of our neighbors actually have. We have, I know the comment earlier in the earlier meeting was that the concern aesthetically, but there are a number of people in our neighborhood that do have the same type of fence. There's one even on, I think it's a corner house over on Palo Alto, and I think it's Belden maybe. And they have a fence in their backyard, even though they're a corner lot per se. They have one, the neighbors across the street have the same kind of fence we would have, and their neighbors have the same kind of fence we would have. There's a lot of people with the 6-foot privacy fences in our neighborhood, actually.
Okay. You mentioned the existing shrubbery would come out. Have you considered an alternative, the shrubs or adding more shrubs for a natural privacy fence?
So we had considered that. The 2-part hesitation in that is, one, by the time we plant, cost-wise, in order to afford the number of shrubs we would have to afford, we'd have to do the smaller, like twig kind of plantings, which would take, well, I think it took us like 10 years for these shrubs that are there now to be tall enough to be considered somewhat of a privacy fence. And second of all, I don't know that, well, I do know that that's not really going to give that sense of security with the dogs, that, you know, they're not going to have some of the, we live in a neighborhood which I'm very proud of. There's a lot of people that have dogs. It's a very dog friendly neighborhood. But again, for peace of mind, it'd be nice to just be in the backyard and not worry that the dog's going to take off after, you know, another dog, or another dog comes in our yard, which that happens quite often, you know, as, you know, dogs get out, they come in our yard too. So, I mean, a fence isn't, I mean, a privacy hedge isn't really going to keep the dogs from going in between the base of the branches. So unfortunately, that's why we decided a fence.
When we talked, you discussed the potential for some activity to go along with it in terms of cleaning up some of the existing clutter. Is there anything to speak to on that?
Sure. I guess in terms of clutter, you know, even looking at, you know, we do have, next to the shed, we have like a wood pile and it has some tarps on it. And we have a little fire pit, you know, the little, like, I think it's aluminum or metal fire pit that's staged over there. I don't think that's anything atypical of a lot of people who have a backyard and places to store things. It's just that unfortunately ours is such an open concept. Everyone can see it. So it looks kind of crappy, but we are planning, that's absolutely part of our plan, is we want to clean all that out. Some of the stuff we've put back there through time, you know, little bits of like chicken wire fencing or something we're going to use for a garden. We never got to old fence pieces that are all going to go out in the garbage. I do crafting. So, you know, my husband's not happy I bring home a little piece of fence to paint. Didn't get to it. So those things are all going to go. And then I'm maybe at some point in like in a year or two, we might bring in our back corner of our house is very, very wet in the spring and summer when we get a lot of rain or any real precipitation. It's very full in that back corner. So we might bring in some like soil and fill in a little bit of that, maybe to kind of absorb some of that. Not, you know, that's a hopeful goal. But right now we just would like to get the fence in to get that started.
Ms. Burley, I have a question. I noticed that you have a boat and some other things over there towards Glen Iris Drive. What do you plan on doing with that once this fence is in place? Since that, I assume, won't be able to go behind the fence.
Well, I don't know that it wouldn't go behind the fence. I think my husband has actually mentioned being able to just leave it and actually probably putting up like some cinder blocks in that watery part in that back corner, because we can't use it for much right now other than storage of something. So if we put some of the blocks, cement blocks down, we can put the boat, because we can have a gate, you know, like a double gate to be able to drive in and out of it and put the boat back there and the trailer too if we needed to.
Yeah, Mrs. Burley, it's Kevin Wilson, Director of Building and Fire Prevention. Actually, anything on a trailer, boat trailers, or that the code requires them to be parked on a driveway.
Okay.
So nothing like that could actually be in the backyard. It would have to be on the driveway.
Okay. I didn't realize that. So then that's where they will be.
The other option is a driveway extension, which is solely next to the garage, which could be, although you have your shed there, so.
Right.
Right next-
We have a big enough driveway. I mean, if we have, being on a corner lot, we have the, full length of 2 driveways. We just, we can put them there, I guess,
Okay.
in the driveway.
And the other comment I would have is if you are to do any grading in the back in the future, you just want to check in with our engineering department as far as the fill possibility that's required, depending on how much you're looking to, how much soil you're looking to bring in.
So those are things to pay attention to. Are there any other questions from the board? Are there any questions, Heather, from members of the audience?
Yes, I do have one hand raised. His name is Jim. Let me allow him to talk. Jim, can you unmute yourself? The floor is yours.
Jim, the sound is very odd.
Yeah, Jim, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Heather, do you have an ability for him or anyone else that matters to type the question to you?
Yeah, he can use the Q&A feature and type me the question.
The other thing, while that might be happening, I'll bring up there. Is this the person that sent the letter in, Heather?
It may be, I believe his name was James. So it could very well be the same person.
So I think I'm gonna just discuss, summarize said here.
Let me share this, just in case, Jim, that you can hear us. Your voice sounds artificially altered and unrecognizable at this point. We hear sounds, but it's not recognizable.
Thank you for sharing that. I agree. That's the reason, Jim, that we're asking you to type in a question or response to Heather. She will repeat us if you do that. So we have some comments here from apparently a neighbor. Definitely a neighbor. They oppose the 6-foot fence. They believe it would be unsightly in the residential neighborhood. Plus, it's an opportunity for in their opinion, for hiding of other potential code violations in the yard, including a boat, a trailer parked on the grass, a shed, and some other things that are mentioned here. So that's the opposition that I have in a letter or an email form, I should say. If it's anything different than that, please make sure you let Heather know. But that is something that we will take into consideration when we are, as much as we're allowed, when we're contemplating this.
And I'll share that Carol mentioned to me that it was her belief that a privacy fence would not only benefit the homeowners, but also the neighbors in terms of having privacy of what they can see from the backyard.
Fair assessment. Okay. Again, are there any questions inside the board? Okay. Unless we're told otherwise. Heather, are you good with Jim? Have you heard more?
She's on the phone right now with him.
Oh, she's on the phone with him.
Looks like.
Okay. Should I table this for a minute? I think I should.
Jim, yes, I have him on the phone, guys. I'm trying to get him to call in another option.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Yeah, while we're, is that appropriate right now, you think? No. That would be appropriate conversation at the end, right, if we table it?
Yeah, I think we should table that and then.
I think I am going to table it. Okay, I'm going to table this variance. We have a few questions here internally anyways. Heather, I'm sure, can share the information if we need later on. So this one will be tabled. And Ms. Burley, we're going to come back to this at the end, like we mentioned earlier, for another applicant.
Okay,
So please hold with us is really what I'm trying to say.
sure thing.
Next, we're going to talk about application 2021-010 by, I hope I say this right, Yorick Properties, which is the Allergy and Asthma Immunology of Rochester and Infusion Center at 3136 Winton Road South. Is there anybody here representing that? You are, sir. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, name is Yilmaz Yorick, representative of Yorick Development and acting agent for AAR.
Thank you. John, I think you have the lead on this.
So there's not going to be any electricity or anything to the sign. It's just going to be the sign stated it here.
Correct.
I have a question.
No, I'm good.
My question to you is, why is this different than other tenants that you have in that facility?
It's a predominantly office building. However, this is their main of their 4 locations in this region. They're moving from Meridian Center, and given the nature, they're a medical user. They have a lot of patients that need to be able to identify them, and we'd like to place a small signage by the common roadway so their patients know where to be directed to.
Okay. Thank you. Any other board members have questions?
If approved, would you anticipate that the other tenants would get the idea to then also want their own signs?
No, there's a rules and regulations for the building. They have their own internal directory, and that's all they need. It's specific per tenant, and per their lease contracts, they're not allowed any lawn signage.
So meaning you control
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes. This is a special case, given the nature of the user.
And again, if going to Mr. Harrington's comment, if someone else came in that was also a similar tenant, a different company, different doctor's office, whatever it may be, but a similar tenant, would you try to extend that offer to them as well?
Most likely not. It really depends. This tenant will be occupying over a fifth of the building. And of the 4 locations, 5 locations they have in the region, this serves a majority of their patients. So it's a little important for them to have the signage there. The other locations are more satellite sites, serving a smaller group. But mostly children is like, especially the group that they're serving, and they just want to be able to find it.
Okay. Any other questions here?
The other tenants in the building, are they medical in nature or are they more just office?
Office, engineering, attorneys.
So this is a new type of tenant that you've had than before?
It's a medical office.
So that's different than what you've had before?
We've had a medical office in the building before.
Okay, but because of the nature of the size of the occupancy that they're,
All of our other tenants in the building don't have walk-in traffic. It's CPAs, 401(c), accountants, engineering firms, patent attorneys. So they don't have the walk-in traffic that this medical office does.
Might a sign on their front door, literally the glass door that is this name and logo, solve the issue of a new patient not being able to find the facility? As opposed to an external sign that doesn't comply with code?
Well, they'd still have to be able to find the building from the road. There would be internal directory, but they'd still have to be able to identify the tenant space within the building from outside of the building.
Other questions? Okay, do we feel that we should table this one as well? Because there was a series of questions on the workshop. Yes? Okay, so we're going to table this as well, as you heard us a moment ago, which means please stay with us. We're going to have some conversation at the end. We may bring you back up or we may vote, but that's what we
Okay,
will do. towards
thank
the end.
you.
So please stay with us. Tabled.
Bob, just to let you know, I do now have that resident neighbor on Zoom. So when you're ready to bring the application back up, I do have him ready to go.
I think I'd like to go right back to that one, actually. This is 009. Steve and Carol Burley at 165 St. Patrick's Drive. And I would like to open that.
Okay, let me allow him to speak. 1 second. Jim, can you unmute? Of course. Hold on. There we go.
Hello.
There you are, Jim.
Jim, we can hear you now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Could you please state
This
your
is,
address for the record, sir?
Yes, this is Jim Shiano, 180 St. Patrick Drive.
Okay, what comments or concerns or questions might you have, sir?
All right. I'm opposed to this fence for the following reasons. This neighborhood is not conducive to that type of fence in the front yard. There's approximately 75 homes in this area, and there are no fences in the front yard. The second objection that I have, when they want to put the fence on the front yard on Glen Iris Drive, they currently have bushes there for privacy, which are approximately 15 foot high, and they're never maintained. This raises a question on the maintenance of this wooden fence if it was granted. The other question that I have is the owner said about the fences across the street and in the neighborhood. She is right, but they are not in the front yard. They are in the backyards, which they are not visible at the lot lines from this front street. She also brought up the point that she has dogs, and that is also correct. And my concern with this is, I'm not sure, and I can't say for the record, but at one point it appeared that they might have been breeding and raising dogs at that point, which is certainly not permissible without a permit. They also have current code violations, which you have mentioned, and I'm concerned what will take place behind a privacy fence which you can't see regarding code violations. They also erected a shed without a permit extremely close to the house, and I'm not sure whether it is attached to the house or not, and I'm not sure if that is also housing the pets. So I have many concerns regarding this fence, and I certainly object very strongly to granting the permit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate that, and we will consider it. Heather, is it safe to assume that this was the only other person on the Zoom world that was going to be speaking about this?
Yep, I don't have anybody else.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your input. We will be still tabling this because I think there's enough questions here that we can have a
All right,
conversation.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. You also received a letter, I believe, from one of the residents, and I spoke to about 5 other residents that also have objections to this, but do not have the capability to get online and tell you their objections. I'm sorry about that.
Nope, I appreciate your feedback. Thank you. That said, I will still close this application for now, and we will table it so that we can have a discussion at the end, and we will consider all the facts that we've heard. Next, we will hear application 2021-011, 012, and 013. It looks like Caitlin Newland at 16 Galloway Drive. Are you online with us, Caitlin?
Hello, I'm here.
Hello, thank you. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Caitlin Newland, 16 Galloway Drive.
Thank you, Ms. Newland. Please tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do and the purpose of it.
We have an RV and we want to be able to store it on the next to our garage. And we have a really big overhang, so we can't go with 10 feet. We need more than that, or else we would hit our house with the camper. And we also need a little extra alongside of our house in order for our tires to not fall off of the dip of the driveway.
And when I'm looking, so just for sake of saying this on the record, the reason we're looking for 3 variances, one, we have a driveway that's 31.1 feet wide at the widest, where 20 is allotted, requesting a variance for 15-foot wide driveway extension, which I assume is the one next to the house, where 10-foot driveway extension is allowed. And then also looking to have this unpaved, it'll be just crushed stone of some sort. Again, for the record here, is everything that you're asking to add, is everything going to be crushed stone or just the section next to the house?
I would actually like to withdraw that request. We have decided that we will go with paving. So
Okay, so
just the first 2 variances we're asking for. We are going to go with having it paved if you approve it.
Understood. So we will withdraw 2021-013. Are there any, thank you for notifying me that. I think that's a better choice. Is there any questions from any members of the board? No? Heather, are there any questions from members of the virtual audience?
Nothing.
Great. With that, this one's mine. So with that, let me read this. So with regards to application number 2021-011 and 2021-012 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variances will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties. This change is minimal in reference to the neighborhood and will move the large camper out of the front of the house. The variances can be achieved by some other feasible alternatives. There's other options, however, this is the most convenient for the applicant. The variances requested is not substantial. These variances requested are again not substantial in size. The variances will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The scope is not large and should have limited physical impact on the environment. And the difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. This is created due to the camper's size and need for the space in the driveway. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Beth.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, because there's 2 applicants, are you going to vote on one each or one at a time?
I was not gonna on this one. It's a valid question.
I guess you really can't have one without the other.
You can't have one without the other.
Okay.
Well, let's see what happens here.
Okay.
And be it, so seconded by Beth, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
To both?
I'm opposed to both.
See, you're correct.
Thank you.
I can accept my, my mistakes. Sorry about that, Kevin.
That's okay.
But at least he opposed to both, so that makes it consistent anyways. So opposed, we have Mr. Redlow as the opposed. With that said, the motion carries and your variance is approved. Your application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Evening. We are down to 2021-014 and 2021-015 by Build Your Own Home LLC at 1455 Jefferson Road.
Hello. Good evening, Jake Harrington, Build Your Own Home, 5 Covington Woods, Pittsford, New York.
And I'm his engineer, Doug Eldridge, Build Your Own, from Douglas Eldridge Site Engineering, 6163 Holly Creek Drive, Ontario, New York. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
We're looking to replace the sign at the Dining Furniture Center with the Materials Direct sign and a Build Your Own Home sign, and also 2 signs on the building also indicating Build Your Own Home and Materials Direct.
Yeah, I think, listening to the earlier discussion, the two are intrinsically linked. Build Your Own Homes is new to the area and they're trying to create their identity. And certainly their identity for home buyers in the fields will be created. And then when they send them over, the purpose of this building, the main purpose is to do material selections for their homes that they're going to build by Build Your Own Home. So driving down a 45-mile-an-hour road, I think they'll be able to identify the Build Your Own Homes logo more quickly and be able to make a safer turn because of that. Materials Direct, without the Build Your Own Homes, like I said, they're intrinsically linked in that the materials are for home building. It's retail sales are available, but it's not necessarily a retail sales store. And just like, you can say zoning board, but if you don't say zoning board of the town of Henrietta, you kind of need that link in order to make the identification purposeful and meaningful. So those are some of my thoughts with respect to, and it's just one business at this site. It's not 2 businesses. It is Materials Direct business, but they're a fully owned subsidiary of Build Your Own Homes. And like I said, Build Your Own Homes is trying to increase its identity in the area, and this will help them with that, in addition to providing, of course, the sign that tells them where to get the materials. So those are some of the thoughts with respect to the conversation folks were having previously regarding the application. The signage, as you said previously, they do meet the size requirements, so there's no additional space needed. And currently, in fact, with the pylon sign in the front, it's a 2-panel sign. They're just putting their logos on both panels, as well as the one on the building. It's just on the same panel as well. So there's no character of the area issues in that regard either.
Sir, the sign that's going to be on the front of the building, that's one sign, or is that 2 separate signs?
That's 2 separate times, 2 separate signs.
Okay.
Well, it says Materials Direct and Build Your Own Home.
Yep.
It's all on one panel, isn't it, Jake?
It's 2 panels.
Okay. But
Smaller than what's there right now. Like right now, it says the Dining Furniture Center in the front of the building. It's the 2 signs I'm projecting are smaller than what's there right now.
That's all you have. Are there any other questions from board members?
Is what you just said about being smaller than what's there now, is that true of what's on the building and on the pylon, I think is the term that was used?
So the front sign, I'm actually doing the sign exactly the same size of what's there, because I obviously want to use the existing structure. The signs on the building are smaller than what's there right now.
Okay, so same or smaller, nothing is larger.
That's correct. Yes.
And it's all within code,
The
both
signs.
signs. I mean, the two signs together, the total square footage is within code
Yes.
in each location.
And the thing we're talking about here is the quantity of signs versus the size of the signs.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
with regard to the variance, yes.
Yeah. You know, according to Henrietta, I have two signs versus one sign because I have two businesses that are function out of the same office. So the variance is for two signs.
Okay, do we want to table this or do we want to take a vote? Take a vote?
We want to take a vote.
Before I do, I have to ask, are there any questions from members of the audience?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, I think we will motion on this. John? And we'll take just a moment here, I assume.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2021-014 and 015 for an area variance, I move to approve. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and heard public hearings, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the application versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood. The property presently has signs on the building and the pylon, and these signs will be smaller. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. This is what they need to advertise their business, and it is also, the signs are also smaller. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty related to the variance was not self-created, two separate names, but the same company. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals approves the variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Redlow.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we have two applications. Shall we do two votes?
I will do two votes because of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
With regards to 2021-014, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Aye. So there's two opposed. It's Christian and, or Chamberlain and Mr. Peckham. With regards to 2021-015, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Aye. So same, Chamberlain and Peckham are opposed. With that, the motions, both motions carry and the applications are both approved.
All right, thank you very much. We look forward to doing business with Henrietta. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
We wish you
No
well.
relation.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good night.
You as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so now that we've done that, we have three applications that we have tabled.
Close the meeting.
I couldn't hear what you said. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll close the meeting for a moment, and now we will open in for us to have our tabled conversations heard on our side of this. I'm going to start with 007, which is Kevin Donk off of 107 Glen Acre Drive. Internally, what's the feeling for this? No from Jesse.
In testimony, you said 4 foot would be okay.
Yeah.
So
For me, I'm okay with 4 foot, but I am not comfortable with 6.
I'm in favor of 4.
I'm in favor of 4 foot.
Not unless it's chain link. Only if it's privacy, I'm against the 4 or the 6.
Okay.
4 foot. I'm okay, not 6.
Christian, how do you feel?
I prefer the 4 foot than over the 6, definitely.
Okay, so, and I think it's you, Heather, right? So Heather, the only thing that I would ask is that on the comments in the bottom, say that we're approving it as a 4 foot, not as a 6 foot.
Okay.
And when we go to do that in a couple of minutes, I'll do those all at the end.
Okay.
We'll go through all of them.
Yep.
And Jesse, I understand your opposition, but
Yep,
again, that's
no,
gonna.
that's fine.
Okay, while we're still in this portion. Let's do 009, which was 165 St. Patrick Drive with Stephen Carroll Burley. And I would like to hear feedback, what everybody's thinking with regards to this. And again, I want to state that I don't think that it's appropriate for us to address some of the other zoning issues that Kevin will need to deal with independently of this. We are focused on the fence.
Can I add this, though? I would suggest that we add conditions to this. One, that the tenants endeavor to keep the yard as clutter-free as feasible. And two, I was going to suggest that they satisfy code violations of the shed, but if you don't think that can be related to this, then.
I don't think it's related to it. I think that's beyond our purview.
It's only for the, so again, Tim, this is only for the fence, so we have to focus on the task at hand, even though the other things are things that I guess we can look at and weigh, and, you know, in your opinion or anyone else on the board, they can decide based on what they've seen. In my eyes, those are independent statements.
Okay.
And I do have, I'm not opposed to putting, what do you call those, stipulations on this. Conditions, thank you. The conditions, but I think a concern for me, and maybe Eric, you can chime in on this, on a condition for something, I think it's a difficult one to put in a cleanliness condition. I think maintenance and repair is an easy one, but is that a fair statement, or is that a?
Yeah, I think the way Kevin worded it, you know, maintenance and repair and clutter free, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
And that would be okay. And if we wanted to, we can also restrict them. I don't know what the regulations are for breeding dogs. That's something.
Eric, as far as breeding dogs, there's a limit to the number of animals you can have. I believe it's 3 dogs. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to go back and look at the code.
Okay. So yeah, I don't even know if we need to address that. That can just, that's just something that we need to monitor.
If there is any code violations, we already are in process of dealing with those. So,
okay.
And as far as the junk and clutter is what we call it on a property, if there's a complaint, we go out and take care of it and get it cleaned up. It's, you know, I don't think it's, you know, something for you to vote on or even put in as a condition.
Well, given that the neighbor identified that one of his concerns was that they wouldn't take care of the property because he feels they haven't in the past, does that make it relevant or not?
I mean, it can be relevant to your determination, but I don't think.
Not as a condition of approval.
It affects the conditions of the.
Very difficult to, I mean, if they don't maintaining the property, am I going to force them to remove the fence?
That's
very difficult to do.
So for the sake of our conversation, I want to point out the things that were mentioned by the other person. One was the sheds, which we've already discussed, are something that's dealt with separately. One is dogs, and Eric implies that it's something we could consider. Probably would be difficult to enforce once it's done. Other code violations, generic code violations, we could say that there are no vehicles or things of that nature allowed to be in the backyard. I guess we could say that.
Again, code does cover all of that.
Automatic
grass parking, correct. Yep.
The other thing that the one gentleman mentioned was that it's the fence in the front yard. Well, that's what we're actually specifically talking about, and they don't have a lot of choice in that. We have to decide on our own merits for that, I believe, the maintenance, and then relative to other fences in the neighborhood. So the one of the comments I think was pertinent was that it is, in that gentleman's eyes, it is not in character of the neighborhood.
Yes, and I appreciate that summary, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to build on it. I'm strongly against this application. I agree with Mr. Shiano's comments. I don't know what the applicant was referring to with the claim that there are other privacy fences in the neighborhood. There are in the backyard. I saw none in the front yard in driving that track. So I think it is very out of character with the neighborhood, tabling all of the concerns. You know, I'm not concerned with the code enforcement. Kevin and his people will deal with that. But looking at the actual merit of the character of the neighborhood, to me, this is very out of character of that street. So I can't see my way to voting for it. I'm a strong opposed.
What about the applicant's desire for privacy and the inherent challenge of having privacy on a corner lot? There really isn't a backyard.
When you're not, my understanding of the law, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have no expectation of privacy outside. So I'm not 100% sympathetic to the fact that they have a lack of privacy on their corner lot.
And that's something that would be known when the house was purchased.
It would be known when the house was purchased.
Another thing though, just for sake of keeping things in line, Mr. Redlow, is that there are, in our scenario that we pay attention to, there are 5 findings of fact, and any one doesn't necessarily preclude one negative doesn't preclude the whole positive to the applicant and the other things.
Yep.
I'm not telling you to change your mind either. I'm just.
No, I agree, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate what you're saying. For me,
it's a strong no.
Driving through the neighborhood, it's just, to me, it's so out of character that I think it nullifies the other 4 for me, in my judgment. I completely respect other opinions on the board.
Thank you.
The fence really isn't in the front of the house, it's on the side of the house.
It's the side and back, in my words.
Yeah, because it's a corner lot. I mean, if she wanted to do a fence up here, that would be a whole different story, because that would be the front of the house. Because they come in from here, this is actually the side of the house and the back of the house. I mean.
Okay. So I haven't understand how both of you are leaning. Beth, any comments or questions? I'm going to do my straw poll here real quick. Any comments or questions, concerns, pro or con?
I'm for it.
Okay. Heather?
I am for it.
Christian?
I'm for it as well.
1, 2, 3. Tim?
I'm for it.
Jesse, I know. John?
For it.
Okay. So we have an understanding for this one. Where did I just, oh, it's under here. We already said Mr. Dong. So now we have the last one, which is the York Properties Asthma Allergy, Asthma Immunology and Rochester Infusion Center. What's everybody's feelings on this?
This is 010.
Yes, it is 010.
So I'm against this because there's other tenants in the building, and yes, it's more foot traffic. However, the other tenants might have foot traffic as well. And there's a big sign out front that has their address, and I don't justify the reason for a single tenant to get a sign.
Thank you. Christian, how do you feel?
I feel that, it's one to have directional signs to say where you have to go, but it's also that the sign could be used later for any of the other tenants that are in that building. It doesn't have to be for that one tenant. I think that even though maybe they have more foot traffic, but like you said, the other tenants or future tenants might also have foot traffic as well. So at this point, I'm a no on this one.
No. Tim?
I'm really struggling with this one. I'm leaning towards no. I can't imagine it would be, I imagine that it would be a challenge to restrict other requests for like signs in the front that are in those cases also redundant or second sign, which is not allowed. I understand the need for directing of the patients, but I worry that this would creep into other requests.
So do I come back to you in a minute?
Yeah, please.
Jesse?
So I respect the points that were made by Ms. Robinson and Mr. Chamberlain. I am in favor of this sign. I think it's a very small footprint. It's not very large. And given the nature of the fact that it's a medical operation that is going to have predominantly sick individuals driving there, I do think it is necessary to increase the visibility from the road. So I'm inclined to vote for it. I also, because we can consider each case independently, my understanding, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we can consider each case independently and not precedent. So I don't feel that this does open the door for other clients. So I am in favor of it for those reasons.
Good point.
Eric, you agree? I do, but I'm just failing.
When you say each case independently, once you approve the variance for the sign, it will run with the land. I mean, you can place some restrictions on, the size of the sign and maybe the purpose of it. But I mean, when you say each case independently, you mean if the next tenant comes in and wants to use the sign?
I think.
No, Eric, that's not what I'm referring to. I respect what you're saying there. What I'm referring to is that if there wanted to be a third and fourth sign from other clients at the same time.
Yes.
Just because we approved the second sign in this particular case, that precedent is not relevant to the third and fourth sign application.
That's
That's
correct.
what I'm getting at.
Correct.
And I agree with that as well. It's not something
You said
that,
that's correct.
yeah, it's not that it would have a precedent, just that it's, for the existing sign for,
And the landlord also stated
it could be for any tenant in the future for that specific sign variance.
that would all be by their lease though.
In a minute, we'll
Yeah.
get you back up.
I mean, they have stipulations in their leases that they can't put signs up.
But they're putting a sign up.
Yeah, but, yeah, exactly.
A specific tenant though that needs it for foot traffic, the other ones don't have foot traffic.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
no, I
I'm
know.
just pointing it out that it's.
But I'm just saying that one door down, we let them put a sign bigger than this one for something that's down Goodway Drive,
And again, I do understand your point, but Jesse's point to that exact comment is that doesn't create a precedent for us. That's his point.
That's correct. You would take that next request independent, and the same things you're considering now, the type of business, the rationale for the sign would be viewed independently.
Right, but to Mr. Migliorini's point, if I understand it correctly, is that, especially I think for medical operations, there's been precedent from the board in the past of having a second sign. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, not so much that. I mean, we let a bigger sign go in right next door, and that's not even for that property.
Which does make sense in a zoned industrial area. This is not a residential area.
This is industrial.
Right, this is industrial. It's not residential. That's my point. To have an additional sign in an industrial area, I don't think is really changing the character of the neighborhood at all.
Beth? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you? So you're
No,
for it.
I said I'm done.
You're for it.
Yeah, I'm for it. I'm fine.
Okay, Beth?
I really still am back and forth. I can certainly validate the fact that they already have basically a pole sign. They could just add this to the existing pole sign.
They don't have a pole sign yet.
Well, monument sign.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, it says the name of
Monument
the facility.
Yeah, it has the address and the.
Has the address and the court.
Right.
I
It's
mean,
huge. Just saying.
Either adjust or add. Certainly I can appreciate putting a different type of business into this location and directing people, but honestly, this isn't something, if you're coming from Brighton Henry to Townland Road down Jefferson, I don't know that you're gonna be able to necessarily see it till you're past it. Unless you have mapped it out and whatever, and if you're coming down Jefferson, or I'm sorry, South Winton from Jefferson, if you go past that driveway,
You missed it. Now you're a
you've
Cadillac.
missed it, and
There are enough entrances to those buildings, though, I have witnessed myself, that it's sometimes hard to identify what building is what. So I can't imagine that, at least if you drove past it, you would have seen that you drove past it and know to turn around and get to it.
I actually be able to ask them, they probably wouldn't have the answer to it because it's not the actual company that's there. But see, I'm sorry.
I know, I do it all the time.
No, I guess my question also is how long has this business been there? Has there already been an issue with their clients not being able to find the office? That's
So-
also an issue. I didn't know if that's something that has been.
In
is one as part of the
testimony, he
lease.
mentioned that it is a new company coming in, a new business coming in. So it's either not there or it's brand new. I
They're
don't
they're
know
coming
that.
in. Matter of fact, I just issued a demo, interior demo permit for the project inside
Okay, so it's not that
today.
it's not that it can't be found, just that they don't. Okay, so no one.
it's just further down the street from the Meridian Center.
Okay, it is, yeah. But no, I'm just
Meridian
saying,
is
so there's
over the
no,
canal.
So there's no current issue yet that they know of that their clients will not be able to find the facility. But
Correct.
so I didn't know if there was already a existing problem with,
We can ask that, Christian.
Yeah.
So I will definitely reopen each one of these, so we can definitely ask that, and I think it's an appropriate question.
being a new client though, they wouldn't know that probably that there'd be an
Correct.
issue. I mean, people would, if they're going to a different facility than where they have been going, and then, yeah, they probably would have an issue at first, but, and also if their clients are usually repeat, they go there more than just one time, they probably would not, they may also play a factor if they can find the location again.
That's a fair assessment. So Beth, you haven't told me you're leaning right now, and Tim, you as well. I'm against this, so I'm voting a no.
I will just, because you asked, I'll say I value Mr. Redlow's point in that there's a particular urgency in a patient trying to find a medical facility. So I'm going to lean towards yes on this.
Okay,
And I'm in decline.
you're in decline. Okay. So who had this one? John, this is you. So you're voting yes.
Yep.
So we're gonna need, can I ask you to write this one up? Because we're gonna be in
Can I have
negative.
John's paper?
I'll give you one.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna reopen these three applications. Wait a minute, let me see something. I got yes, I got yes. Okay, we're gonna reopen the meeting. I would like to start again with 2021-007, which is Kevin Donk at 107 Glen Acre Drive. Mr. Donk, I assume you're still on the line with us? I can see his name up there.
Yeah, he's here. I just muted him again. Sorry.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank you. Welcome back. We're going to take a vote on this now. Heather, would you motion?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2021-007 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as there are other fences in the neighborhood. However, this is a corner lot. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as there are difficulties with the lot size in the applicant's primary yard is to the side of the house. The variance requested is substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, as the fence will not create any line of sight issues. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, as the applicant is requesting the fence for privacy and safety of their children and dogs. And be it further resolved that based upon the above finding, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
Second.
And
Wait,
be
sorry.
it further resolved that this approval shall be subject to the following conditions, approving as a 4-foot fence.
Second.
That is seconded by Christian. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
And that's Mr. Redlow. Therefore, this application is approved
Or
and
4-foot fence.
for a 4-foot fence. Thank you for clarifying. So, Mr. Donk, your application is approved with a 4-foot fence, and you'll be able to follow through with the rest of your application process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day, sir.
You too.
Next, I would like to reopen 2021-009, Stephen Carroll Burley at 165 St. Patrick Drive. Who is this? Tim, this is you.
I'm a yes on this because I believe there's no other way to achieve the privacy goal. Does not have an impact on the line of sight for cars driving by. There's even going to be a side benefit of removal of the trees that the neighbor had argued are not maintained. The resident here acknowledged that in my conversation with her, and that they will be removed, so it will be a clean look with the new fence.
Perfect. With that positive comment, would you motion?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to application 2021-009 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit of the applicant versus the potential detriment of the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. 1, the variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as the applicant believes that the privacy fence will benefit both homeowner and neighbors, and that corner sightline will not be impacted. 2, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. A 3-foot fence would not solve the existing need for privacy. And existing tree cover, the existing trees only cover a small portion of the desired area to be fenced. 3, the variance request is substantial in that it's double of the code at 3 foot, but this will provide privacy that is inherently challenging on a corner lot. 4, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. Some of the intended work will address corner flood conditions with gravel and or soil work. And 5, the difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, but this is only feasible solution for corner lot privacy. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
So that's Beth and Jesse on the opposed. And with that, the application is approved, and you can follow through with the rest of the application process. So thank you for that. And finally, we have 2021-010, which is, again, the York Properties. And again, you're welcome to come back up. I do feel there were a couple of more questions, but I'm not 100% positive. Christian, were there a few more questions for you?
I just want to ask a couple of questions, if you could come back up to the lectern or podium, whatever. So basically, this is a new tenant. They haven't moved in yet. Are they foreseeing an issue with them being able to be not found as far as by their clients, or they?
Yes, the building's not an office park where they're currently located, so we don't have the option for directory signage like an office park would have. And I do want to have it be noted, this is not signage for us. This is the tenant applying for the signage, so it would only be there as long as they're the tenant. So
that's not true.
Oh, we wouldn't be putting another tenant signage on there.
Okay, so you would remove it.
Yes, it's.
But the application goes with the property. So
I
Kevin,
see.
would that be removed if they pulled the sign?
No, I believe it goes with the property. There's no time limit on it.
So
Eric can chime in on that one, but I believe it's forever.
Yeah, with
That's correct.
Eric, what do you say?
Kevin's correct. That's why the building owner is the one that's applying for the variance, not the tenant. The property owner is.
So just for clarification, when you apply for this and if we approve it,
yes,
this sign is now approved forever. So if, my scenario is if, 3 years down the road, you put in some less than desirable business and you want to sign there, it's approved. And so for us, that is something that we pay attention to very heavily when we're doing this. And although we would love to say automatically yes, and it can only be for a medical facility, that is not a stipulation we're allowed to put on there.
Mr. Chairman, the only way I believe that the property owner could police it is he has to be the applicant for the signage on his building. So I don't know if a tenant cannot come in for a permit for a sign.
So
he would have to have this building owner's permission.
That's him.
Correct. So if a new tenant comes in and he doesn't want them to have that second sign, he could deny his tenant that second
But
sign.
we have no leg to
Correct.
stand on. once he's approved, we've given him a sign at this scale for.
Well, it would be a second ground sign. I believe you could put a restriction on the square footage.
I agree with that. I think the thing that most of the board members are debating, in a general statement, the extra signage is not something that from what I've seen, we generally favor. That's not impossible to get it, but it's not something we generally favor. And so when we're asking for this, one of the biggest factors that we have, and Jesse and I use this word probably more than we should, come on, say it. Perpetuity.
Perpetuity, yep.
We say it too often.
Yes, we do.
So when he's applying for this, we're giving them this in perpetuity. Even if he takes it down for 3 years because someone else goes in,
Correct.
he can put it back up without asking us again.
But following that line of thinking, Mr. Wilson, could we put a condition on the variance that says that, Mr. York can only use this sign for this particular business? Or are we not allowed to do that?
Not allowed to do that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Because I agree for the medical side of this, I want to do it, but I don't want to do it for the other reasons that I've said many times.
The other option is turning his existing sign into a plaza sign and put, as many tenants on it as he wants, that he has.
So that is an option.
Definitely an option.
So Mr. York, from our straw poll, it does not look like this will likely pass. So your option is that you could make that a multi-unit sign that you have already there.
And to be clear for the applicant, if it does not pass, he cannot
apply for the same
thing again. Unless it's changed, correct?
Yeah, I don't know what the change equals, right?
Eric, I don't know if it's the size or a tenant. It's not the tenant, it's just a second sign.
Isn't that stipulation just for 1 year? They have to wait for 1 year before they can reapply?
Noted.
Okay.
Thank you, Heather. So, as it stands, I think I think we should motion. Are there any more questions from you, sir?
To his point, so we can't have any contingency, neither an assurance that it would only be for allergy immunology offices.
Are you ever going to sell this facility?
No.
How do I have that assurance?
Will there ever be another owner of the facility? Eventually.
Right.
So
50 years from now, will you sell this facility?
He's a young guy. He's not going anywhere.
He's
never going to die.
This is the things that we think about. That's why I'm asking. I don't need it's a rhetorical question.
I
but
understand,
the
yes.
point behind it, this is the dilemma that we come up with.
Yeah, it is a
And-
special case. That's the only reason why we're here.
Yeah, and again, it's still a dilemma for us because for your special case, it's our
Of course.
perpetual.
Did the tenant request this for their,
Of
or
course.
Yes.
they requested
Yeah,
specifically?
this was a major point in our lease negotiations.
Is this putting your lease in jeopardy if we do not accept or approve this?
Yes. Again, the way it is, you have Goodway Drive. However, behind the Pizza Hut really is not an entrance to the building, given the condition of the road back there, and that there's no directory there either. And because the building with the adjacent building has a shared driveway, and we do not have anything to identify who's inside the building.
And you don't anticipate the ability to be able to use your large monument sign currently as a directory sign?
The issue that we're potentially going to face with that is, given where that monument sign is, set back from the road, not on the south end of the lawn where the entrance to the buildings are, is that people will not really be able to notice it. Given it has tree cover surrounding it, this is, I think the schematic, it identifies the square footage. It's something as big as this podium that would be made out of metal. So it isn't, it'll just be staked into the ground with a small post hole digger.
Just to be clear for the record,
Yes.
because the chairman was indicating, how we talk about perpetuity. I just want to be clear for the record that I am in favor of this application, even though I might be outvoted. I just want to be clear on that.
Thank you, Jesse.
I think I think the way, if you choose to approve the application, the way to address the concerns that I'm hearing is what you approve as far as the sign, the size of the sign, and possibly the location of the sign, as opposed to the business, the use of the business.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Does this testimony change any opinions?
Go for.
I'm in
Go for it.
favor. Are we for?
Okay.
But are we,
You still have your paperwork from before?
Yeah.
You're back on.
So do we have enough?
We do, because we were on it was 4-3, so now it's
So what
opposite 4-3.
do we want to put in there for the stipulations?
I don't think there's stipulations. I think they have a size assigned to it. I don't think we can stipulate anything that goes against, the tenant. It's truly the sign itself, pretty much void of any content on it. So I think we're really, with this testimony, and again, there's a bunch of us on the fence here. It looks like we have enough to grant him this sign. And I think we have negative. Tim said yes, and Beth said yes. You said yes. So he's good by one.
Did Eric say we should put something in there?
No, I don't think it matters for the need that he has doesn't change that. So with that, I'd like to get a motion for this, Mr. Miglerini.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2021-010 for an area variance, I move to approve. Whereas the zoning board duly advertised and held public hearings, has considered all relevant information and has considered the potential benefits to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood and community in relation to such variance. Now therefore it be resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood. Tenant that will be occupying this location is a medical facility, and the patients need to know where their location is. The variance cannot be achieved by other feasible alternatives. They have a monument sign out front, but it's just the address, and they need a smaller sign to direct the clients in, or the patients in, excuse me. The variance request is not substantial. It's a small sign. Will not be lit. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental condition. It will guide the tenants or the patients into the medical facility. The difficulty related to the variance was not self-created. Tenant would like to have a sign for patients to know where they are. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Aye. So for Heather, it's Heather, Christian, and Bob opposed. So with that, your variance request passes.
Thank you very
And
much.
we appreciate your time.
No,
and
thank
best
you
of
for your
luck.
time.
Thank you. Have a nice day. With that, I'd like to close the meeting at 8:45. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, can I ask a question off the record?